If only they knew. The hub for young business minds.
Yes, people, it's Ted Lawler, and welcome back to the If Only They Knew podcast, sponsored by MindKite, the mindset and well-being platform that is helping thousands of people with their mental health. Today, we're joined by Peter Hopwood, the public speaking coach, who will reveal how we can be more effective and efficient when speaking, helping us to get our point across and progress no matter what area of life we use this in. If you're looking to be more confident and impactful, this is the podcast for you. Firstly, Peter, thank you for coming on. We were just speaking there, and like you said, we're both excited to sort of dive deeper into your story and share some insights for everyone listening. But yeah, for the sakes of the people that may not know who you are, if you don't mind briefly explaining who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive deeper.
Absolutely. So my name is Peter Hopwood, and essentially I help people to speak better on stage, in their offices, with their teams, to share their messages with more power, with more impact, more presence, and try to get the results they're looking for. So as a speaker coach, pitch coach, and TEDx consultant coach, that's exactly what I do: help people to speak better, to be more aware of who they are and the perception they're sharing with the people they're talking to.
It is very hard. Like, obviously, talking from someone who does podcasts like week in, week out. Some days I can feel like I can speak very well, and then some days I'm like I feel like I'm
I can
talking in
imagine.
gibberish. Yeah.
I can imagine. It's yeah, depending on how we feel and how we see ourselves,
Mm.
and things that are going on in our lives as well. Giving the right impression is so important. Even more important nowadays when we're um, when we're communicating through Zoom, through Skype, online. So all those things that we have to do to create the right impression are really important. So yeah, really essential certainly these days.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's one of the reasons I was like excited to have you on, because I think it's going to be so important. Everything you're going to say today, not just for those who are looking to do public speaking, but just for those who are looking to have an impact when they do speak. Because I'm sure you will get into it later, but it's the same traits that you have for public speaking. I guess they can be sort of attributed to any sort of walk of life, no matter what you're doing. It's all about how you come across.
Absolutely. Just as I said earlier on, the self-awareness
Mm.
idea is so important. So as a speaker coach, through my career, I've learned more about myself, more about the perception I'm sharing out, and how people see me, how I see people as well, how people judge me, and also how I judge other people wrongly.
Yeah.
A lot of it is actually, when we see each other, when we see somebody online, when we see somebody on stage, on TV, when we meet them, automatically we're wired as humans naturally to judge.
Mm.
So a lot of it is actually trying not to judge, trying not to have an open mind. Somebody that maybe is not looking great or not sounding great doesn't necessarily mean that they're not great communicators. It just maybe means just at that moment they're having a really bad day. Something's happening in their lives that we haven't got a clue about. So having that judgment that we often do straight away, try to kind of hold back on that and look at the person, really try to understand what's going on inside their heads if they can share that with you, and that will help the whole process.
No, 100%. And like I said, I'm looking forward to dive deeper into that a bit more. But for now, I always say to sort of understand who someone is now, rewind the clocks a bit and sort of get an idea for how they was like when they was younger. Now, as a public speaker and a public speaking coach, I'd assume, perhaps wrongly, that you, as a kid, you were the one that was always standing up and wanted to sort of talk and was confident and intelligent. Was that the case?
No, you're
No.
wrong, completely wrong. Which is actually quite. This is quite common
Hmm.
with speakers that I meet on stages around the globe, and people I work with. Just because maybe they're confident now in some form, let's say at work, in their position, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were like that before. Certainly, I wasn't. I was, quite shy young man, not really not really ready to go on a stage and certainly be the center of attention and letting everybody hear my ideas, hear my thoughts, hear my the things I value in life. It wasn't like that at all. So I actually went to art college. So a lot of the things that were going up in here, I tried to put down on paper. Then it was paper. It wasn't computers like it is today. No internet at all. So the art college was a way for me it was a way for me to really be creative and share my creativity on paper. And then I moved away, lived abroad for a while, lived in different countries. And then actually, in my early 20s, I became a holiday rep,
Wow.
holiday resort. So I worked for a large holiday company, tour operator from the UK, worked around Europe. And one particular part of that job was actually standing on a stage and doing presentations to people coming on holiday. So they've just arrived the next morning. They come on holiday. They're sitting there. They want to know about the resort, about what they can do, how they can really enjoy themselves, how they can make the most of their holiday. And really, on my side, that was a selling role. So I had to sell the things in the resort. I had to sell myself. I had to get them to kind of trust me, to buy from me, because they had all different options to buy, different people to buy from. So really, those presentations, literally 4 or 5 twice a week, really gave me the idea of really what you say, how you say it, and how you come across really does help someone's perception of you, and in the way that you hopefully want it to go. For example, I'll give you one clear example. One of the resorts I was in many years ago, in Mallorca, I had a great time, really enjoyed my role there and really enjoyed being there, and that came across in my presentations.
Yeah.
Okay. Another resort that I went to, an island, a Portuguese island. I didn't have a good time there. For me, it was a real struggle, a lot of challenges in lots of different areas, and certainly in my presentations that came across as well. So if you look at my sales in both of those areas, very, very different indeed. So I then became really fascinated and put a passion into how you say things, why you say them, how you're feeling at the time when you're saying them. Again, all these things really play a strong role in the results that you want. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you said that as well, especially the bit about you not being as confident as you are now when you was younger, because I think that gives people hope, because it means that I got loads of young people listening to this, mostly sort of young men, and like speaking to a few of them online, like I know that a lot of them, they struggle with their confidence and they tell themselves that they're shy, they're not confident, they're this, they're that. But you're just sort of reinforcing that belief. If you keep telling yourself you're that, when like you're going to continue to be that, when really you don't have to be that thing that you've created. You can gain confidence.
And also there's a lot of things that are false about what we're telling ourselves.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So often we think that confidence is actually something that is, somebody is confident or they're not confident.
Yeah.
That's not it at all. So me, in my job, in my role, I feel confident. Why? Because I've done it a long time. I'm relatively good at it. I work around the world. I tell myself that, and it gives me even more confidence every time I do more gigs at different events, more jobs, more coaching jobs. So that's something that helps me. But in other areas of my life, other areas of what I do, I'm not so confident because it's maybe unfamiliar to me. I haven't done it before. And also there's that element of what other people think of you. All right. So people will always judge us. Okay. Especially, for example, when going out onto a stage or doing a workshop or speaking in public, people will automatically, as we said before, automatically judge us. But knowing that people have the right not to like us.
Yeah.
All right, so that's cool. That's absolutely cool. People have the right not to like us. They can judge us. They don't have to like us. That's absolutely fine. I know now that what we're doing now, some people will look at the first 10 seconds and think I don't like this. I'm not going to go for this at all.
Yeah.
Others will hopefully stick with you. Your subscribers, the people that listen to you on a regular basis, they'll probably stick with you. So knowing that, if you're doing something worthwhile, if you're doing something that you believe in, if you're doing something that you really value, then go for it. Then keep going. But know that, for me, I always think like 80% of my crowds, of the audiences that I'm speaking to, either as an MC, either as a host, a workshop, 80% hopefully will stick with me. Because there's that 20% or so that that may not decide to buy into my ideas or emotionally stick with me, and that's completely okay.
Yeah.
So that's really, really, really important. And also confidence is also just telling ourselves that we trust ourselves. That's all it is. It's telling ourselves that we trust ourselves, that we're comfortable with who we are at that time. We don't have to be confident all the way through our lives. Some people are. Most people, in some way or form, are not,
Yeah.
and that's okay. All right. So when we see somebody, let's say, see someone on TV or somebody on a stage that is looking smart, savvy, they sound good, look good. At that particular time, they probably are very confident. But other parts of their life maybe not, and that's okay. We don't have to be.
Yeah.
At the end of this, when I've finished here this evening, I'm going to put my feet up. I'm going to put on a t-shirt, and I'm just going to maybe bite into a burger and just relax and look like a slob probably on my couch. And that's okay. All right. So depending on the context, depending on what you're doing, remember confidence is not something that is always there. It's only in different areas, and you can train that.
Yeah.
It's a skill. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It isn't something you can that people are always confident. It's a skill, and learning to build that skill and be aware of who you are and your awareness of your, let's say when we're talking about speaking and getting up on stage and public speaking, for example, a lot of it is about the breathing. A lot of it is about through your body and often through your voice as well.
And also, I did lose you for a second there, but it was only literally for a second. But I heard what you said.
What bit did you miss?
No, it was literally just that it was a second. You talked about the breathing, and then it literally carried on after that. But yeah, one thing that made sort of tied into what you said there was the bit before that as well about having the passion for it. And if you do this, you correct me if I'm wrong, but like I've found that if you do have a passion for something, that fear of being judged, like you said, there'll always be that percentage of people that judge you. But if you've got that true passion for it, that fear of being judged sort of just gets ever so slightly smaller, because you're thinking, you know what, I'm going in this room to pitch, or I'm doing this or that with a mission, and with a mission to sort of move forward, and not worry about who's judging me, because I know where I'm going. I've got that confidence in myself because I have the passion.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there. Absolutely, it's actually all about our thoughts. It's what we're thinking about, and it's again going up there and saying to yourself, go ahead and judge me. That's okay. I'm going to do my best. Feedback is really good. Okay, so judgment and feedback are very different things. All right, so feedback is always good to listen to. All right, so looking back at yourself, looking videos back at yourself. I don't know. Do you look back at your podcasts? Do you look back at these?
Yeah, not as much.
Not good.
Yeah, not as much as I should, but I do sort of look back, and then like I pick out little things as I'm editing. So I'll be like, okay, I should have done this, should have done that, or if I say something and the person nods their head, then I realise,
Yeah, that's so powerful. So listening back to our voice, listening back to what we say and how we're saying it really is good for our own good. And
Yeah.
we are naturally, we are our own biggest critics. So looking at that and saying to yourself, it's okay, I'm going to see myself, and I'm going to see, what the areas where I can improve on. Why did I say that? Oh, that sounded good, I'll probably use that again.
Yeah.
Or I reacted well in that context, I'm going to do that again the next time. So feedback is really important. So going back to judgment, just making sure that your thoughts about yourself are okay. Maybe you're not the greatest at what you're doing, but that's okay. That's absolutely fine. But knowing that you want to share something, often, for example, when talking to speakers, speakers on stage in different stages and different events, it's often about the value. If you think about the value, that will your thoughts about how you're feeling, your anxiety thoughts will start to go away. So let's say somebody's feeling anxiety before they go on stage. They're feeling a little bit nervous, as we all do. I do as well. What I tend to do is start thinking about the value. What am I going to share with my audience? What are they going to get after I've been on stage? After I've shared what I have to share, what are they going to walk away with?
Yeah.
As soon as you start thinking about that, as soon as you start focusing on that, the focus of anxiety starts to go away. And it's actually true of anything. If you want to get away from a different thought, you can't physically, our brains, we cannot think of two things at the same time, in parallel. So if our anxiety is rising, so we're thinking about that, and whatever we think about, remember, gets bigger, right? Whenever we're thinking, so when you're feeling crap about yourself, you're not feeling good about yourself, and you're feeling all those negative thoughts, more negative thoughts, they spiral and they get bigger. All right. So the idea is to switch to a different thought. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Different thoughts, and just focus on that. So focusing on your value, focusing on what the audience is going to get and how they're going to feel, this will start to make you feel stronger. And then when you feel stronger up here, that will come across, as I said before, in the way you move, the way you breathe, and the way you sound.
Yeah, no, nice. Definitely, thank you for that. And it's like with the bit about knowing the value, or knowing the final message, the statement that you want to put out. It's something that I take on board as well when I'm doing the podcast. Like before I start the recording, I sort of have an idea of, okay, this is sort of what I want to get from the person. These are the type of messages I want to get across, and the rest is just figuring it out. That's the hard part, and that's the part where you need to, like, as a host, or just like you, much like you do, just as someone portraying a message. It's just about finding the fine details. But like you said, as long as you got that overall message, you can just use that as a reference point. So like now, if I carry on talking, I'm always referring back to that overall message, and no matter how long I keep talking for, you can always link it back to that. So it's about having that in the back of your mind. That helps for me.
Yeah, value. Always think of the values. So whatever you're going into, a job interview, for example. Okay, a job interview. Let's look at that as an example, right? Job interview. What would be the thing that you want to achieve at the end of it, right? So let's think. So for example, it could be you want the person talking to you to really see who you are, right? To see the genuine side of you. You want them to feel like you're the right man for the job or woman for the job, right? You want them to feel comfortable with you. Yeah. You want them to take you seriously, naturally. You want them, the perception of you, you want them to see somebody who's knowledgeable, who's open-minded. Also, even just by saying those things, how you want people to perceive you, even just by saying those things, the way you then think is actually quite positive. All right. So whenever you're in a situation where a tough situation, like an interview where people are judging you or going on stage, just think to yourself, how do you want your audience to perceive you? And then the words you start to use, those adjectives, will actually pop in your brain, you start to think of those, and then you'll start feeling like that. Yeah? And it comes across, as I say, in your body, in your voice, the way you look. One example now. I'll do one example now. Right. So, for example, and this is a great tip for people going to just about to walk on stage for the first time. Let's say a startup pitching their idea. When you walk out, start thinking. If I ask you right now, okay, just look at me now, okay. Think of a secret. Think of a really cool secret that you know. Clearly, I don't know, but it's a really cool secret. It's really something cool, something pretty. Okay, I have no idea what that is, but I'm looking at you now. So I'm looking at your eyes now. I'm looking at your face, and already, so your eyes start to kind of. They're not glazing, but I can see there's something going on in your mind that's pretty cool. You've got something cool to share.
The cogs are turning,
And, yeah, absolutely. And you're just about, and thinking to yourself, I'm just about to share that idea. I'm just about to let the cat out of the bag. Just about to reveal my big idea, really cool idea or really cool secret. By doing that in your head, by saying that to yourself, me looking at you, if you came out on stage with that on your mind and looking like that on your face, already as an audience member, I'll be intrigued. I'll be thinking, what's this guy got? What is he about to say? What's he going to share with me? Clearly, it's something cool in his head. Well, I want a piece of that. I want a piece of that cool pie. Yeah.
How important then is it? Because I saw another video that you did, and you was talking not just about the facial sort of expressions and the way you're coming across, but like the hand movements as well. I found that really interesting. You mentioned the importance of like just moving your body as you're talking.
Absolutely. So the thing is, so when we look at somebody, when we meet someone, you'd think the first place where we look is probably, I don't know, round about here between the eyes. We are looking at that area because of facial expressions, micro expressions are, as humans, we are wired to really understand those really, really well. So what's happening on our face tells us so much. But at the same time, we're actually watching what the hands are doing, right? Because our hands tell us so much as well. All right. So also when you're speaking, using your hands, when you use gestures, okay, it actually makes you sound better. It's a really strange idea, but what happens is your brain goes down to your arms, hits messages, signals to your arms, to your hands. When you make those gestures, they then flick back to your brain and then back down here, and then you sound better. So your tonality is actually slightly better when you start using gestures. You can try it out. You put your hands down here and you say something, and then you do the same thing using your hands maybe up here, not up here, but just around here. And it actually sounds better. Also, there's a lot of study, there's a lot of research based on how we gesture and the perception of somebody when they use their hands. For example, when we're feeling good, let's say we're sitting at a table. Poker players, for example, here's a good one. Poker players, when they're sitting at a table, often it's the eyes. We're often focused on the eyes and our facial expressions, because hopefully that will give something away or not. But it's actually often the hands. So when we're feeling good, or when we're feeling confident, when we're feeling good about ourselves, let's say, towards a positive mindset, we actually show our hands. All right, we show our hands, and the thumbs are actually open. We can see the thumbs. When it's the opposite of that, or going towards the opposite of that, our thumbs are down, okay, and we don't often show our hands, or our hands are back towards our stomach at the table. So if you watch a poker player, if you're a poker player yourself, perhaps. Are you a poker player? Do you play poker?
No, I'm not.
Okay, anyway,
I've definitely watched it.
What do I? But looking at So you can see them on YouTube, all playing poker for lots of money and a really serious game. You can actually tell. Have a look at where their hands are, and that will tell us. It won't necessarily mean that they are lying or they're bluffing. It just means that there's something going on.
Yeah.
Okay. And also that when you're gesturing, when you do it symmetrically, when things are happening at the same time, we tend to, as a listener and as an observer, we tend to remember those messages more, and we understand those messages quicker. So gesturing, for example, if I was just to talk like this and then talk about something else and then talk about that and then maybe talk about something over there and then something will come up in my mind and then I'll talk about it like that. That is okay. But when we do things together, for example, I'm talking to you right now and I'm talking about the different ideas about speaking on stage and using your hands and using the way you move your body and the way you sound, you can see by doing it together, the things that are happening symmetrically, it just gives this sense of credibility, this sense of controlness, really. All right. So when it's just one hand, it's easier. It's almost easier to knock us off balance. But when we're like this, think of it like that. Yeah. When we're kind of together, symmetrical, it's more difficult to knock us off.
Yeah.
Because we seem stronger and we seem more balanced. Right. So it's just small things that help your listener or observer create a stronger impression of you, if that's the impression you want to hit.
Yeah, no, I love that. And especially on the point of credibility, I can't remember when it was something I think on This Morning, and it was a young man who went on and he was talking about the negative impact that the ums and ers have on the young working class in particular, especially young working class males, because for some reason, I guess it's just like dialect or whatever it is, they have the natural tendency to be like and like use those fillers. And this person that was on the TV, he was saying that it really does have a negative impact, the way you portray yourself and therefore the way you're perceived. And then based on the way you're perceived, it sort of determines the result. And like you said, the impact you're going to have by talking. Because if I was talking now with fillers and all that, you'll be thinking, does this guy actually know what he's talking about?
Yeah, no, you're right. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear?
Yeah, no, I can.
Can you hear the drill?
I can hear it, but it's very faint.
Okay.
Like, I can hear you more. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's just stopped now. Great. So the ums, the ers, if we do too many of them, it kind of it's a distraction. So we want to avoid distractions, whatever it is. So often a distraction could be something we're holding. Like I could be doing this. Often which isn't great. All right. Often on stage or maybe on in an interview doing this or a meeting. All right. Anything which is a distraction, which could be could be lots of ums, lots of ers. All right. But remember, it's okay. It's okay to have an and if you're thinking naturally, what do we do when we meet someone? Often we do throw in an on if we put in words like or and they come up time and time again and it becomes a distraction, then that's where you really need to reduce those, or even better still, take them fully out.
How sort of, what's your why? I'm sort of thinking as you're speaking there, like I just wondered, what is your why into helping other people with the public speaking? And is it just being the fact that you can help people be more impactful, like you're suggesting there, or what is it? What's your why with what you're doing?
I think there's I've just completed a show reel actually. At the beginning of my show reel, there's a couple of phrases I throw in from some of the other videos, and it's all about it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you work, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, it doesn't matter where you're from, your background. You can still stand up on a stage, or not a stage, in front of people, and share good messages in a good way. it doesn't matter. We seem to think, people who are on stages around the world on big events, sharing, big workshops, that these guys are wonderful, and okay, they're good in terms of the content they share, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you, who maybe doesn't, somebody who's unemployed, somebody who is not from a well-off background at all, you can still do exactly the same thing. I've met speakers who are, young, very young, or the opposite, quite elderly, that can still give, really good 20-minute, half an hour talks on different stages. All right, so I suppose it's this is something that anybody can do, regardless of their background. But it's all about up here. It's all about feeling, you don't have to feel good enough. We often think, oh, I'm not good enough to stand on a stage. I'm not good enough, let's say, to give a TEDx talk. I'm not good enough to give a keynote speech. That is complete BS completely, because everybody can do it with the right mindset. And often it goes back to the judgment thing.
Yeah.
Feeling that we are the judgment of others stopping us doing the things that we can do. Still in my career, still in my life, there are still things that I haven't done. Haven't done yet. May not even do because of how I think other people will perceive me. But I'm getting there. It's a journey. It's a path.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, to young people watching this, it does not matter where you're from, what you do. Don't let the perception of others stop you from doing things that holding you back. For a long time, again, when I was younger, that's what happened to me. I wasn't that confident. But then when I started to do those presentations, it seemed like it was working. So the more I did it, it became more familiar. So anything familiar, you get more confident at. So anything you do lots of, actually, anything you do a lot of, you get more confident in. So let's say if you were, I don't know, bouncing a football on your head, and you did that every day for a year, you would get really, you'd get really confident at it. Maybe not necessarily that great at it, but you would get really confident at it, right? So when you start getting confident at something, the next stage is actually start to be self-aware and get feedback from others so you can move up, right? So I meet a lot of speakers, for example, who are good. Okay, they're good speakers, and they stand on stages. They get, let's say, professional speakers who get paid a lot of money to stand up on a stage in different parts of the world. All right. Now, I would say 50% of those speakers are good speakers. All right. Wow. Something like 20% of those speakers are really good speakers, and I don't know, something like 5% are like top great speakers. Yeah. But for a lot of speakers, in their heads, that anybody working around the world getting paid to speak, often their ego is very big, so they feel like they're like a top speaker because they've been doing it a lot. They've been doing it a lot, and they get paid a lot of money for it, and they travel a lot. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're great speakers at sharing their ideas. The ones that listen, so a great speaker is a great listener. All right, remember that. So a great speaker, a good speaker, if you want to speak well, if you want to do strong public speaking, speakers who are great listeners, or who are people who are working on their listening skills, are actually stronger speakers. It's all about empathy, listening to your audience, listening to the feedback, listening to yourself, finding out, looking at yourself and admitting, listen, I did, that was awful. I didn't do that well. How can I make it better? Why, I can say something, I can say something better at that at that moment. The next time I do this speech, I'll do it slightly differently.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think it's all. I heard. Have you heard of Jordan Peterson by any chance? No, he's sort of he's a lecturer from Canada, but he sort of talks about similar topics to you, and it's sort of based on what you said there. It almost sounds very similar to what he said about just you mentioned like knowing the message you want to put across, but he sort of adds on that, especially with what you just said just there as well, like with just understanding that every situation is almost like a game of some sense, in terms of there's an objective with and there's many players, and each player has a different objective. So like you said, going into a public speaking environment, looking at the crowd and saying, okay, the people at the front row are nodding, that must mean I'm doing something well, I'm getting closer to my overall objective. Or even in a social situation, you're in the pub, understanding that someone there is probably going to be the guy with a massive ego who keeps interrupting and wants to talk. But if you understand
Yeah.
that, it makes it very easy to deal with. And I guess that's basically the same with your scenarios as well.
Absolutely. And always remembering, trying to remember, um, whatever situation or context you're moving into,
Mm.
okay, going on stage, about to speak in front of an audience, you create the emotional temperature in the room,
Of course, yeah.
right? You create it. So whatever, how you come out feeling nervous, sounding nervous, croaky voice, not moving, um, symmetrically, let's say, all over the place, not looking balanced, not looking or sounding credible, your audience feel that, all
Yeah.
right, and then they'll have that perception of you will grow, the wrong perception of you will grow, and it's all just going downhill. But if you come out again thinking to yourself, the value I'm going to share, I'm gonna, it's up to me, to share that energy.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, the audience, they don't have to take that on board. That's okay. But if you come out feeling, I'm controlling this emotional temperature, I'm going to go out there and give them something, give them good content, give
Mm.
them value. Without that, there's no point in doing it. So again, a lot of people think public speaking is just about confidence, and there are a lot of people who speak and they're confident, right? But you to speak well, to share messages well, you need your delivery has to be good naturally, but it's your content. Number one is the content, is what you're sharing, the value. What are you going to get them to feel when you've finished? How are you going to make them think differently about something? How are you going to get them to, the call to action? What are you going to make them, hopefully inspire them to do
Yes.
once you've finished?
Mm.
So all those things come into play rather than just the delivery. The delivery is like the last part.
Yeah.
Delivery is just the last part. First part is what you're going to share and get them to do that.
Mm. No, I like the idea of when you mention responsibility as well, because I think that's, again, it goes for life. Take responsibility for what you're doing. And if, say, I'm trying to think of like a social situation so everyone can relate across the spectrum, but like, say if you're in a house and you're always arguing with your parents, maybe take a bit of responsibility rather than saying, oh, it's somebody else. And like, if you're on stage, rather than saying, oh, the audience was rubbish, that was boring, take some responsibility and think, okay, maybe it's me. What am I doing? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Because there's always, like you said, there's always sort of that swaying, that you're either doing something right, a little bit wrong, a little bit right. And you're never black and white. You're never doing everything perfect or everything terrible. So there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely. So yeah, I fully agree with you there. It's really important to um, to know when to look back at situations, and like if you've had an argument with your parents, or
Mm.
um, some kind of conflict, is to look back at that and admit, why did you react in that way? Why did somebody else react in the way they did?
Mm.
Maybe you were just having a really crap day. They were as well.
Yeah.
And again, okay, in terms of conflict situations, we often say things, we spare of the moment, we often get triggers.
Mm.
Somebody will say something, or the way they look, or something will remind us of something in the past, and we'll react on that, often negatively. So yeah, in a broad sense, really being self-aware and admitting when you're wrong, admitting that things didn't go well,
Mm.
and always remember it. You always have another chance. The great thing about, well, no, not just speaking, but most things we do, certainly in business, we have another chance. We can do it again. We can,
Mm.
the day will finish, a new day tomorrow, and we start again. Not being tied to all the things, all the negative things in the past.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. So let's, if we can, I know you've said so much. Let's try and summarize everything you said, and try and my purpose here is to try and make it relevant, no matter whether you're a public speaker or just a guy or girl doing his thing in life. So I guess the main things are responsibility, which I liked towards the end. You mentioned take responsibility for yourself. Um, Body language and the way you come across is very important, and again, you're responsible for that. And would you say that there's one more thing to add to that sort of collection?
I'd say certainly for young people, well, for everyone, but maybe more so for young people. Certainly when I was younger, I would just be really judgmental. So I would judge everybody,
Yeah.
everything. Everything is everything was awful. Nothing was good. But you know what? As you get older, try to less judge,
Mm.
less judge. If somebody has got, I don't know, if somebody is looking, full of makeup, and they're, what they're wearing doesn't suit you, it's not something that you would go for, then that's okay.
Mm.
That's okay for them. That is something that they want to do, and something that they feel they need to do. Often we have masks. Often we put on masks. Like, again, going back to the speaking issue, a lot of speakers that I meet are quite arrogant,
Yeah.
and that's what they do as their job, it's their career. That's okay. At the beginning, I didn't quite kind of get it, but as time goes on, I realize, these people are normal, good, hardworking people. But often, when we're in a position where we're getting judged, we put on this kind of arrogance hat, where we head up and we feel stronger, maybe better than the others. But in fact, it's just a way of masking how we're feeling underneath.
Mm.
So my advice would be, the last thing here I would say is, maybe don't automatically judge so quickly. Try to hold back a little bit, because everybody's got issues, everybody's got things going on in their head. Um, everybody's got something going on. Somebody who's got these, fantastic pair of trainers, the most expensive pair of trainers you can ever buy, may not mean that that person actually likes them. It may not mean that that person has got a lot of money, or their parents or their family have got a lot of money. It could just mean that they feel they're not feeling good inside, and they feel they have to keep up with the other people in their class, for example, or in the neighborhood.
Mm.
And that is, that's, unfortunately, that's the way they're feeling. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they're trying to deal with issues and challenges of peer pressure, of social pressure. So yeah, try not to judge straight away.
Yeah, I'd also, if you don't mind, sort of extend on that, like, don't judge others, but also don't judge yourself. Especially, I'm thinking, if you're in a public speaking situation or an interview or whatever, and all the scenarios that we sort of mentioned today, don't sort of be too hard on yourself. Sort of understand that, okay, I can do this a bit better now, I can say this, but I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. Like you said, you go to bed that day, you sort of wind down, you can try again tomorrow, perhaps.
Absolutely. So not judging yourself so harshly.
Yeah.
Talk. The voice in our head, that is the loudest voice we'll ever hear.
Yeah.
So listening to ourselves. So tell yourself good stuff.
Mm.
It's okay. Tell yourself, you get into an interview stage. Already you're at the interview stage. They already know that you are, you're a potential candidate. They probably want you, but need to just check, on small things, whether you're the absolute right fit at the time, and even if you don't get it, that doesn't mean that you're not the right person for the job. It just means that that person at that time decided to go for someone else.
Yeah. You seem to sort of have it all together. You seem to know what you're doing, and you're doing it well from based on the videos I've seen as well. But I'm curious, like, what is next for you? Do you have any plans to sort of differ from what you're doing now, or are you just going to keep smashing out what you're currently doing and helping others?
Well, I'll tell you what. During since COVID hit, the work I've been doing has been really hit hard. Certainly with the events and the presenting and traveling. So that's all stopped. Most of it now is online. It's a lot less than it was before. So my main concern now is really to keep pushing on, keep working online, and hopefully, I'm optimistic. Not looking good in the UK right now, but the events industry will come back eventually, and I'm optimistic that will happen. So yeah, I'm thinking right now, looking at these just ideas, maybe doing a video course, sort of everything that's going on in the boardrooms, in the different trainings that I do, just sort of like compile that, compact it all together, and somehow share that online. Maybe, I don't know, maybe even a book of some kind. Nice. Put it all together. But these are just ideas. But the main thing is sort of keeping safe, keeping the mind strong, even when things are really tough. And for me, things are really tough for me right now. But I'm getting through it and moving forward.
No, and I think, that's a very good message to sort of end on there as well. I think that's what everyone should do. Just keep moving forward and try and keep themselves in the best condition, But my final hard-hitting question for you then.
Go on then.
What do you want your legacy to be, if any?
Oh, yeah. Is that what you ask everyone at the end?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Legacy. It's just like on my tombstone, Well, I don't know. Listen, that's a tough, really tough question to answer.
It is, yeah.
Well, it is, and that's where you ask it. I would say, when people think about me in a professional sense, someone that helped a lot of people to feel more confident, to step up, to feel that they can do things that other people have told them not to do or didn't believe they could do. And just the perception of ourselves is so important. The story in our head of us is the most important one, and to build on that, and to be aware of that, and to be humble, and not to, again, all these other things that are connected with, arrogance, putting people down, feeling better than other people. It's just a mask. It's just a mask. Underneath it, they're feeling just just the same as you, but they show it in a different way. So thinking of yourself in a better way. Tell yourself good things. The story in your head is the biggest story you'll ever have, and feeling more confident about yourself is what it's all about.
I love that. Perfect. Thank you so much. The floor is now yours. If there's anything you'd like to say to everyone listening in terms of where they can find out more about you and stuff like that, please do so now.
Okay, listen, you can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out on LinkedIn. If you do that, just pop in a little note that you've seen this conversation we've had. I'm on Twitter, Instagram as well. Got my website is under construction right now, but feel free to go onto that. I've got my show reels as well. You can see a little bit more about what I'm doing. But I think the main thing is after this conversation, when this is online, let's hear what you think. What your comments are about what we've spoken about. If there's something that's helped you, pop it in. If there's something you want to talk to us about, pop it in there. Something that you want to challenge me or Ted about, pop it in there as well.
100%. Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm going to take on everything you said on board, as I always do with each guest as well. And hopefully I'll be a bit more better after listening to this and taking on some of the actions, So thank you so much.
Lovely to be with you, Ted.
If only they knew, the hub for young business minds.